Hello! I made an episode 1. Watch it, you rube. If you don't, nothing will make sense. Anyway, today I promise that I will deliver on my negative criticism. In this video, like the first, I will cover 3 stories so I can edit this within a week. So it's easy to watch. So here we see a shift in these stories, where the first round were all basically horror stories based around these, let's face it, self-insert characters. These stories are best described as horror-themed shonen, and they're honestly the main reason why I wanted to make this series, because they're whack. Part 1, Jeff the Killer vs. Slender Man. If you don't know who Slender Man is, then please hand over the rock you were sleeping under because I need a break. He's basically the most iconic and first really popular creepypasta. Slender Man is a creature built in mystery. The fact that he has no face highlights this. The human brain looks to the face to find something familiar, something alive. That's why we often see faces where there aren't any there. The first 2 appearances of Slender Man were in these 2 photos and side stories, as if he's hiding in plain sight, or caught on camera by accident. These pictures were made to look like something you might find in a photo album, and once you see him, you can't unsee him. I can't state enough that these pictures are some of the best content that creepypastas have to offer, and Slender Man is always a character shrouded in mystery, which is genius because if you tell the audience what the monster intends to do, you know what he wants to do. But if you have him slowly appear in more and more pictures, and then outside your window, the audience is sitting there in suspense, wondering what he's there to do. Now, I'm gonna have to eventually talk about Slender Man's abilities, because this story has him fight someone, and that's bad. The reason why I'm so hesitant to start listing off his abilities is that, well, his abilities are only really there to make him seem like more of a threat. He can't be beaten with normal means, but to list them off as if in a show like Death Battle kinda ruins the point of the character. He isn't intended to fight anyone. He's intended to appear. He's intended to fuck with you. You know, it's sort of the reason why Darth Sidious should never fight anyone, because he's only really there to fuck with Luke. And Slender Man's kind of like that. By making him fight someone, you kind of ruin the point. But, you know, I'm gonna have to list off these abilities because, you know, I complain about it later, and obviously that's what you're here for. So, he can teleport, regenerate, make you slowly go insane, make you go insane quickly, make you a puppet of his will, and grow out tentacles of his body. Kinky. And has the ability to distort recordings. And I get it, this is a bit of fun, a little fan fiction, a little what if. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. Well, I mean I am, but like, you know, I'm not gonna get mad at like a Sonic versus Mario thing, because both of them, you know, they're athletic. Both of them are very similar. But Jeff the Killer and Slender Man could not be more different. In a lot of Jeff the Killer stories, he's either A, the main character, or B, well, a mindless killer. You already know what his intention is as soon as he comes into someone's house. With Slender Man, he is there for literally any other reason. Slender Man is again shrouded in mystery, and you know, a good rule when writing a fight is to make sure that these characters are in conflict with each other. If they could coexist in peace, then there is no engaging fight. For example, Krillin and Gohan need to get the Dragon Balls away from Frieza. Vegeta also wants the Dragon Balls. Conflict. There you go. But with Jeff the Killer and Slender Man, I don't know, one could be in Missouri, the other one could be in Kalamazoo. I don't think they'd ever come across each other. So, yeah, I honestly don't think a teenager with a kitchen knife could beat someone this overpowered, so let's just get into the story. So we start the story with the girl who gets murdered because the story wants to remind you that these characters come from horror stories. Then we see Jeff drinking whiskey I should note that it isn't confirmed how old he's supposed to be in this story, but I think it's really funny if I pretend that he's 13, like in the original story. So anyway, it's established that Jeff enjoys killing people, and the story considers him to be a reprehensible piece of shit. Remember that, we'll get back to it later. Anyway, Jeff finds a tombstone in the middle of the woods, then hears some rustling behind him. Then he cuts down some trees, which is something he could do, I guess. So then Slender Man shows up and they have a Dragon Ball Z fight. Well, actually, no. I'll give you an example of a good Dragon Ball Z fight. So, I actually didn't talk about this in my Dragon Ball Z video. Click the icon, you loser. Alright. Mr. Satan was given the task of killing Majin Buu and saving the Earth. But because of the bond that he had gained with him, he can't do it. Then later, people show up to try to kill not only him, but his friend. Mr. Satan springs into action and shows exactly how he became the world martial arts champion. I didn't talk about this in my video because I couldn't really find a place to put it. But yeah, it's one of the best fights I think I've ever seen. And it works because, well, there's emotion there, there's conflict. Drama drives fight scenes. I can't overstate that enough. So, what's the drama between Jeff the Killer and Slender Man? I already stated that it's very unlikely for them to even meet and that they could coexist in peace, but as far as Slender Man knows, this is just a random person, and as far as Jeff knows, this is a weird fucking tentacle monster. So, I mean, obviously for the plot to happen, Jeff attacks Slender Man, and Slender Man, like, breaks his bones, then Jeff breaks some of his bones, and it's like, okay, well, you could easily make a connection between these two. Remember, Slender Man has the ability to make people insane. What if, hear me out, you retconned Jeff to make it that, oh, he went insane due to the influence of Slender Man? That would make sense. And if Jeff realized that and hunted down Slender Man, oh, okay, like his sane side tried to wrestle out and win, that would make sense. They would fight, and then it would actually mean something, but now, it doesn't. It's just sort of like Jeff cuts off some of his tentacles, then Slender Man slams him, then Jeff tries to counterattack, then Slender Man, it feels like a kid playing with action figures. That's what it feels like. Anyway, Slender Man eventually throws him against a tree, break the previously mentioned tombstone, but then, the dumbest thing in the story happens. The words Lou are written on the tombstone, and then for some reason, Jeff becomes enraged. Jeff, if you didn't want Lou to die, why did you kill him? I'm serious, Jeff acts like Slender Man killed Lou, but that's not what happened. Jeff killed Lou, allegedly. And remember how I said the story wants you to think that Jeff is a horrible person? Well, in an instant, he becomes good younger brother and starts attacking Slender Man. It's like, what? Why was this here? It was already clearly established that Jeff doesn't care about anyone and will just murder anyone for no reason. So why is this any different? Why are we now acting like he's this noble crusader now? And it only lasts for this one moment. Right after the fight, he kills two random people for no reason. So I'm just led to believe that the author was like, oh shit, Slender Man's too overpowered. Oh well, better fudge some character growth. So yeah, then Jeff starts a fire and then two people die at the end. Now, again, I know that this is a story for fun, but if you want to have fun with this, I don't know, why not have Jeff fight a classic horror movie villain? What if he fought Freddy Krueger? That'd be fun. Like, I don't know, they're both deranged psychopaths who got burned and used knives to kill people. It's not an insane leap. I just don't see the appeal of this, and I get it. If you want to see creepypasta monsters fight, like download a Mugen or something. So, yeah. Now you know why Slender Man was in the intro of the thing I made. But the next story, oh my god, the next story, it's really bad. It is really bad. But you know what, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Let's just get into it. Part 2, Jeff the Killer versus Jane the Killer. This is the story that made me want to make this series. Because there are even, if I hate to admit it, parts of the story that are well written. And for a second instant, I feel a glimmer of hope that maybe this story could be good, you know, under different management, but maybe it could be. But no, it's really bad. And, you know, it's a type of bad that says, no, I'm actually smarter than you. Which really pisses me off. So, yeah, let's just get into it. As I've already said, I think Jane is a better protagonist than Jeff, because she has a character. But no, we get another story from the perspective of Jeff, who is a flat, boring protagonist who wants to kill people. Which is a nice segue to Jeff's catchphrase, "Go to sleep." In the original story, he whispers it to Lou, you know, to try to sound creepy. In a horror story, I think the line works well, but only put there, because in context of the scene it works well. He's trying to lull his brother into a false sense of security, you know, like a mother talking to her son. But in this story, he screams it at people, which I think is really funny. Can you just imagine this guy with a really bloody hoodie walks into your house, he smells like shit, and then he pulls out like a dinky knife and says, "Go to sleep!" I'd laugh in his face, honestly. Anyway, Jeff gets a bunch of phone calls from a mysterious woman. Gee, I wonder which main character's name in the title it is. Why did I write that like that? It's dumb that they reveal Jane at the end of the story as an epic reveal. But, you know, if you wanted Jane to be a surprise reveal, why did you call the story Jeff the Killer versus Jane the Killer? It's really stupid. I'll talk about it later, but yeah. Anyway, Jane sends Jeff calls, which really amount to, "I'ma kill you." Then Jeff gets confused, which to this story's credit, I like that because Jeff's enemy is someone he doesn't know. And it's a good callback to the only story I liked last time, so yeah. I mean, I feel like this story would have worked better if it was a split narrative between Jeff, who was trying to avoid Jane's attacks, and Jane trying to put together this plan, and both of them reacting to each other's plans. That'd be fun. But anyway, and this is completely relevant to the plot, I promise you. Jane disguises herself as a prostitute, and then Jeff and her, okay, that came out of nowhere. Damn, Jane. I didn't know your revenge plan involved having sex with the guy. Like, I'm not kidding. By the way, this only comes up once more in the story, when Jane reveals that she was the prostitute. I feel like this was only put in the story to make the shippers happy. Anyway, Jeff walks back to his home, all depressed and stuff, and here I am thinking, like, Jeff, if you're trying to avoid the police, don't go to your house. That's like the third place they're gonna look, you smarty pants. Anyway, Jeff has a dream in which his murdered family forgives him. The scene becomes very funny when you realize that Jeff burnt off his eyelids. Anyway, he wakes up in a cold sweat and realizes that Lou is here. And Lou forgives Jeff. Okay, thank you, Lou. Thank you, Lou. You have done a thing that totally isn't setting up a pointless twist later. You may leave the scene now. Also, I can't use this picture for Lou anymore because in this story, he doesn't have multiple scars all over his face. He only has one on his stomach. Hello, little boy Lou. You are back. Anyway, Jeff kills some random people because killer isn't his name. It makes sense for him to kill random people. Fuck you, it makes sense. Anyway, Lou knocks Jeff out. And oh my god, a twist! Who could have seen that coming from a guy who's called Homicidal fucking Lou? Anyway, Jeff wakes up in a warehouse. And now we get to Jane. Jane is nothing but a mustache-twirling villain in this story. And nothing about her character that I liked is left. She no longer has attachment issues. Her sense of humor is gone. The only thing left is her hero complex, which, I get it, makes sense. Jeff literally is a negative influence on the world. But then, like, why not have her for the full story? Her being a twist villain, which doesn't work because of the title of the story, is kind of confusing, right? Like, if she's gonna be Jeff's adversary, why not build up on that? Why not have her get attached to Jeff over, like, the course of hunting him? Like, building this fake game in her mind. Sort of like she did in her, titular story, but we don't really get to see any of that. She just says, "Yes, Jeff, I have come from the far-off land of off-screen to kill you." Anyway, they both have a really long fight, which doesn't really have much tension. And I'll tell you why it doesn't have tension. Both of them start fighting in a way where both of them would be dead in minutes, but this fight just continues. Like, both of them get, like, cut open, bones broken, organs pierced by bones, like basically really gory like fighting, but nothing of value happens because both of them just keep getting up like, is that all you got, punk? It's really dumb. Like, it really ruins the tension you could have with two characters in a knife fight. I don't know. Anyway, Lou shows up with Jeff's killed parents. What the fuck? Can Jane raise the dead? Are these actors? Are these her fellow prostitute friends? Anyway, it's revealed that the dream never happened, and they all start to cut open Jeff. Anyway, Jeff talks about fighting Slender Man and how the solution in that situation was lighting a fire. That's right, this shitty story is a sequel to the other shitty story. I did the thing! You weren't expecting it, I subverted your expectations. The end. This story's awful. So first off, Jeff sucks as a character. He has a character arc that's like forgotten. I forgot to mention it. That's how forgettable it is. So for an instant he sees Lou and he's like, wow, is killing justified? And then like he just decides to kill more people without thinking about it. It's a hint towards character progression, but alright. Imagine a different story where Jeff slowly realized that killing was bad, or like slowly became sane again, and then Jane attacked him for the sins of his past. The story could be a good commentary on the nature of justice. Could be something. Lou sucks. If you removed Lou from the story would only benefit. Lou isn't really a piece in the puzzle at all. He just sort of shows up and is like, hey bro, what's up? I'm not gonna backstab you later. Jeff's like, okay bro, you want a beer? And then Lou's like, hell yeah. And then later on, he like knocks out Jeff like, psych, you got pranked! Oh my god, you fell for it! Like, it's dumb. It's really dumb. And his parents have very questionable reasons to be in here, and the biggest sin of all is that Jane's plan makes no sense. So at first, she sends him phone calls to try to scare him, but that doesn't work. So she tries to stalk him to scare him, but that doesn't work. So for some reason, she decides to have sex with him, which could have worked. Like, Jane, his defenses are down, shank him in the wank, and get it over with. But no, I guess she really wanted that Jeff dick. Then she sends Jeff's parents to scare him, which actually does work, but instead of having his parents kill Jeff, she lets him live. Jane, are you trying to epic prank him, or are you trying to kill him? Make up your mind. Then she sends Lou to both confuse Jeff and me. Lou, if you want to kill him while his guard is down. But no, Lou just decides to leave. And then Jane reveals in a scene I didn't talk about for reasons that she controls the police. Do you see why I didn't talk about it now? You could remove it from the story and nothing would change. And then she finally decides to kill Jeff. I hate this plan so much, because the story tries so hard to convince you that Jane is this 1000 IQ, cunning adversary, but her plan doesn't make any sense. Wow, Jane, you're really lucky that Jeff, a guy who is known to be a dangerous murder man, didn't just kill you while you were having sex with him. Wow, Jane, you're really lucky that Jeff didn't just kill his brother like he tried to in the first place. It seems like the author tried to make an engaging plot that Jane had without fully knowing the conclusion. Like, at times it seems like Jane's plan is to stir him out and to scare him. Then she makes really dumb decisions. And it's not like this type of writing is bad. For example, Yoshikage Kira is one of my favorite villains of all time, and his attack plans are often contradictory and frantic, so what's the difference? Why do I think Jane is stupid and Kira is brilliant? Well, firstly, the genres are completely different. This is a creepypasta. It was posted as one story all at once, while JoJo at the time was a manga series that was published weekly. During that time, it's easy for an author to forget things or fudge things in one way or another, because, you know, a week is a long time, and maybe you only have a vague recollection of events, yada yada yada. Whereas, in this story, the details should have really been ironed out. Another difference is that Kira is usually cornered and has to make tough decisions on a whim. Well, Jane has this all planned out and tries to convince you that she's really smart. This story isn't scary, it isn't entertaining. I mean, the plot is dumb, the characterization gets forgotten about, and, well, the villain is lazy. So, yeah, it sucks. This is easily the worst one I've covered. It's at the bottom of the list. God, is there any saving grace to any of this? It seems like this was a waste of time. Maybe my family was right about creepypasta. Maybe they are just a bunch of bad stories that pretend to be deep. Maybe. But if that were true, this next story wouldn't exist. Part 3, right on time. The story begins with a deranged man stalking a woman. He sees her drinking a mocha with her friend. He scoffs. The fact that she had always polluted her body with that sugary filth. Tonight was going to be a good night after all. He follows her home. She goes to take a shower. He grins and pulls out his hunting knife. He was going to enjoy this. Months of tracking her had finally paid off. She was finally alone. He breaks down the door, ready to cut into her like a warm knife into butter. But when he opens the bath curtain to cut into her flesh, he finds a ghastly sight. Her face was stuck in a look of permanent terror. Her body was full of gashes and cuts. She was maimed and clearly tortured to death. He had been beaten to his kill. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He also had the urge to leave. Then he heard footsteps behind him with the words, "Shh, go to sleep." I honestly didn't think it was possible to write a Jeff the Killer story that is a good piece of horror fiction. This story is brilliant. This story is brilliant because the fact that Jeff is in it at all is the twist. We follow a completely unrelated killer in an unrelated setting. You don't need to know anything about the canon to enjoy the story. Although, it does help. If you genuinely want a good Jeff the Killer story, this is it. I don't think anything gets close to this. Definitely top of the list. So, yeah, those were the 3 stories. Next time I'll cover the attempted reboots to the franchise and my opinions on them. So, do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe, and maybe I'll do a thing. Goodbye!